Hello friends, James Stevenson back with more charts about that Reuters article claiming Tesla loses market share. What bollocks. That is codswallop. That is balderdash. It's baloney. Tesla is not losing market share. Tesla is taking market share. Right, Loki? Loki agrees. So I'll just walk you through this thread really quickly. Now, if you saw this thread already, you may think you've already seen the chart that I'm going to talk about in this video, and you're right, you've seen the first chart. Somebody replied, and I gave them a bunch more charts that you probably missed, so stick around. This first one says, so far this year, Tesla has grown its U.S. EV sales by more than twice as many vehicles as the second-place brand sold in total. That's a jaw-dropper, right? Let's see if Loki wants to come over and eat his breakfast. This is an episode of Breakfast with Loki, if Loki wants to eat his breakfast. I said I wasn't going to make any more charts about that Reuters article headlined, Tesla loses market share, but I lied. I made more charts. This is just the first of several. So if you saw my previous video, you saw the bubble charts that I made. That was the first way that it occurred to me to visualize this data. How much have each automaker's EV sales in the U.S. grown by from last year to this year? What were those sales numbers, and what do they look like if you plot them on a chart, if you graphically visualize this data instead of just looking at it as a big table of numbers? Well, this is the second way that occurred to me, which was to do a line chart instead of a bubble chart. And I've put my labels in a legend off to the left here, because if I had tried to put all of these labels on the chart, on these points, you wouldn't be able to see the lines at all. They would be completely obscured with all these labels stuck right over the top of them. So the only way you know who this red line belongs to is to look over into the legend and see. That's the color reserved for Tesla. Only Tesla gets a red line here. And everybody else is stuck below 50,000 units sold in both last year and the current year. If any of them had grown their sales by 100,000, they'd be above this 100,000 line here. But only Tesla grew by more than 50,000. Tesla grew by 100,000. 102,000 if you want to be exact. I'll get to that in just a minute. I'll show you my spreadsheet after I show you that Steven Spencer at @Spencer_SMB replied, have you done a chart that shows year-over-year unit growth by OEM? I replied, ask and ye shall receive, after throwing one of those together very rapidly. And now I have to make a third video about this, so you're watching the third video right now. So here's that chart. You can tell this is thrown together real fast because I didn't even put on here my watermark or the source for this data. I very quickly made some revisions after tweaking for a few more minutes, and after sorting the data to show in descending order how much growth there was. So Tesla grew by the most. Chevrolet grew by the second most, and they didn't even grow by 30,000. So Tesla grew by more than 3 times as much. You can see the magnitude for yourself on the chart. As the next automaker grew by, if you sort by how many units did you grow year over year, some of these automakers actually lost unit sales year over year. Now, as we said before, nobody is selling very many other than Tesla, so none of them fell by very much versus 2022 year-to-date Q3. Kia fell by the most, and that's not even very many thousand. But you can see, you know, bright drop. What is this? They're up by 200. So this is one of the companies taking EV share away from Tesla by virtue of how few sales they had in the prior year. And I said, or you could do it as a tree map. So here's what it looks like if you show this info on a tree map. Here's Tesla growing by 102,699. And here's every other automaker that grew Now, if they don't grow, they don't get visualized on a tree map chart because it can't show negative numbers. But here's Chevy in second place, Mercedes and BMW, well, in third and fourth place. Well, Rivian, I guess, was in third place. It's kind of hard to tell what the tree map is doing, so I guess it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So here's your next 10 after Tesla. And then a bunch of also-rans over here in this small area. That's what the total growth looks like year over year. So you can kind of visualize here how Tesla is losing market share. Because Tesla had 2/3 of the market in the prior year, they would have to have grown they would have to have accounted for more than 2/3 of the growth, 2/3 or more of the growth year over year in order to have not lost market share. So because Tesla didn't increase their sales year over year by more than 66%, that's why they're losing share to these much smaller competitors. And I said, or you could just lump all of the non-Tesla brands together and stack them as a group on top of Tesla's sales alone. Here's another way of pulling a takeaway from the data. All other brands combined still haven't sold as many EVs in 2023 as Tesla alone sold at the same point in 2022. What do I mean by that? I'll show you on the chart. So losing share is really all about what happened in the base year. The more you dominate the competition in any given year, the easier it gets for them to take share from you the following year. It's all about comparing against that base year. If you really dominated like Tesla did in 2022, selling 390,000 of the, what is that, less than 600,000 vehicles sold in 2022, it's extremely difficult for you to maintain your share the following year, even if you grow by more than 100,000 and none of your competitors, no competitor individually grows by even 1/3 of that much, right? Because there's so many of them, even if they grow from 196 to 379, this number is still less than this number, right? The amount that they grew to is less than the amount Tesla alone achieved a year ago before growing by 102,000. All right, and I'll show you the data table this came from. This is my Excel spreadsheet here. So you can see my new rows that I added down here for all others combined and for Tesla. Tesla grew by only 26.3%, while all others combined grew by 93.5%. But look at the absolute numbers. This number, that grew from about 200,000 to about 380,000 is still less than Tesla's sales last year by themselves, right? Right, Loki? Yes, Loki knows. So yeah, there's the prior year sales for the entire EV market in the US, 587,000, and Tesla alone accounted for 390,000 of those sales. So Tesla this year has 56.5% of the share. Last year last year 66.6%. So that's why Tesla is down in EV market share, 10 points. Who's up? Well, let's see. Rivian, Mercedes, and BMW are all up by 2 points. So if you want to know who took the 10 points of market share that Tesla was down by, here they are. These next 4 on the list that grew by the most took 8.3 of the percentage points. That explains nearly all of it. Okay, so by virtue of what? How did they take 10 points of share between them, almost, from Tesla? Well, Chevy grew from 22,000 to 49,000. They're in second place. Rivian grew from 12,000 to 36,000. Mercedes grew from 7,000 to 30,000. and BMW grew from 9,000 to 31,000. So, show of hands, how many of you believe that these companies are going to find it easy to continue growing at these percentages year after year? You think we're going to keep seeing Mercedes grow at 338% per year? Are they going to leapfrog above 100,000 Mercedes EQ models sold in the US next year? Probably not. BMW, you think they're going to keep growing at 265% per year? Probably not. But that's what you're talking about when you say Tesla is losing EV share. Well, they're still growing by the most. These are sorted, if you're wondering what order these rows are presented in, they're sorted by the amount of year-over-year increase. I'm really vamping for time here as Loki eats his food. You're a good boy, Loki. So yeah, this was just me copying over the data from the Cox Automotive estimates for EV sales in the US, and I've got the change in share year over year shown here for every automaker. Ford actually lost 1.7% share despite increasing, so they grew their sales 13% year over year, but they lost share of the market because the overall market grew at 48.7%. So anybody who grew by less than 48.7% lost share, right, Loki? You're a good boy, buddy. You get a treat? You get dessert for eating all your breakfast? You good boy. All right, let's break this up into little baby Chihuahua pieces for you. There's one. There's two. There's three. Good boy. Good boy, Loki. Thank you for helping me make this video, buddy. Yes. Okay. And with that, I think Loki and I have finished this video. So maybe I'll switch to the Loki's bed cam here since Loki's doing interesting things. Move this camera back over closer to him. And I'll say, if you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, why not go ahead and subscribe to my channel? It's free to do that on YouTube. Or, let me move this camera, I guess. Well, that's a great shot of Loki there. Or, if you would like to support Loki and me and our efforts, if you would like to buy Loki some treats, you can do that by supporting me through Patreon or by subscribing to me on X, formerly known as Twitter. That's the way I recommend. That's the most affordable way to support me. Only $3 per month. It's $4.20 a month on Patreon. But it's only 69 cents per week on X. If you work out the math, $3 per month on average over the course of a year is 69 cents per week. And you get access to stuff like James and Loki's Gems of the Week. That's an exclusive subscriber-only series. Usually runs about an hour. I go through all of the tweets that I liked on X over the previous week and talk about why I liked them. Right, Loki? Yes. And thank you to my executive producers. Let me get their credits in here. Kathy Kitchler and Rebellionaire.com, and I'll see you in the next one.